Somewhere along a heavily guarded coastline, behind layers of security fencing, surveillance systems, and classified clearance protocols, a new kind of war machine is being born. Not on a battlefield, not in a missile silo, not in a fighter jet assembly hall, inside a shipyard. And what is being built there will redefine the way navies fight, survive, and project power across every ocean on Earth. Most people will never see this place. Most governments will never confirm it exists in the form it does. But the engineering happening inside those massive dry docks, behind those enormous steel doors, inside those climate-controlled design laboratories, that engineering is already reshaping the future of conflict at sea. This is the story of how the next generation of naval warfare is not being invented on the water. It is being invented in steel, software, and silence. Let's go inside.
I'm standing outside the perimeter of one of the most restricted shipbuilding complexes in the world. Behind me, you can just make out the top of a massive gantry crane. The scale of what's happening inside here is almost impossible to describe from out here. But the trucks moving in and out, the material shipments, the engineering teams too, all of it tells you something enormous is being built.
To understand why the shipyard matters, you first need to understand what broke the old model of naval warfare. For decades, the dominant logic of sea power was simple: build big ships, arm them heavily, sail them into contested waters, and dominate through firepower and hull size. Aircraft carriers, guided missile destroyers, cruisers bristling with radar arrays, and vertical launch cells. The bigger, the better. That doctrine worked because the threats were defined. Enemy submarines, enemy aircraft, enemy surface fleets. You could see the threat, track it, and respond with overwhelming force. But something changed. Drones changed everything. Suddenly, a vessel worth hundreds of millions of dollars could be threatened by an unmanned aerial system that costs less than a car. Suddenly, a naval formation that once felt invincible could be tracked in real time by commercial satellites overhead. Suddenly, a single hypersonic missile, traveling at 20 times the speed of sound, made traditional point defense systems look obsolete. The ocean stopped being a place of protection. It became a surveillance environment, a kill zone, a domain where being large, slow, and predictable was no longer a strategic advantage. It was a liability. And the navies that understood this first started doing something extraordinary. They stopped asking how to build bigger ships. They started asking how to build smarter ones.
Right now I'm beside one of the dry docks. The scale here is genuinely staggering. You're looking at a structure that could swallow a city block. The hull sections visible from this angle are being assembled in modules, massive prefabricated blocks of steel. They will eventually be joined together into a single warship. The precision here is extraordinary. Every millimeter matters at this scale.
This is where the shipyard becomes something more than a factory. Walk inside one of these modern naval construction facilities, and the first thing that hits you is the noise: welding arcs, plasma cutters, the deep resonant clang of steel plates being positioned by overhead cranes. The air smells like hot metal and industrial lubricant. But look closer and you notice something different from the shipyards of the past. There are robots here, not assistants, not tools operated by humans. Autonomous robotic welding systems moving along programmed tracks, laying weld seams with a consistency no human hand can match over an 8-hour shift. Automated cutting tables slicing hull plates to tolerances measured in fractions of a millimeter. Computer-controlled assembly jigs holding massive structural frames in perfect alignment while the steel cools and sets. This is modular ship construction, taken to its logical extreme. Instead of building a ship from the keel up in a single continuous process, which takes years and leaves enormous room for rework and error, modern naval shipyards are building ships in blocks. Massive sections, sometimes weighing thousands of tons each, are constructed simultaneously in different parts of the facility. Hull sections, superstructure modules, engineering spaces, weapon system bays, each one built to exact specification, then brought together in the dry dock for final assembly and integration. The result is a ship that comes together faster, more accurately, and with dramatically fewer defects than traditional construction methods. Here's the part most people don't realize. The ship is essentially finished in the digital world before a single plate of steel is ever cut.
I've just been allowed into the edge of the digital design facility. What you'd see if you were standing here is a room full of engineers working across massive high-resolution screens. But they're not looking at blueprints. They're navigating a fully rendered, three-dimensional model of a warship. Every compartment, every cable run, every pipe system, every weapon mount, all of it simulated in software before it exists in steel. They call it the digital twin. And it is extraordinary.
The digital twin concept sounds simple. It is not. Building a modern warship is one of the most complex engineering challenges that exists. You are simultaneously managing structural engineering, hydrodynamics, propulsion systems, weapons integration, electronic systems, crew habitability, damage control architecture, signature management, and 1,000 interdependencies that connect all of those disciplines together. In the old world, conflicts between different engineering systems were discovered late. You would get deep into construction and find that a pipe run conflicted with a cable tray, that a ventilation duct crossed a structural frame in a location that compromised both. These conflicts cost time, they cost money, they sometimes cost years. The digital twin eliminates that at the design stage. Every system is modeled in three-dimensional space. Every conflict is detected by software before it ever becomes a physical problem. Engineers can walk through a virtual version of the ship, open every hatch, inspect every space, simulate battle damage, and watch how it propagates through the hull, test the behavior of propulsion systems under different sea states, and verify that every weapon system has the clear arcs it needs. And this is where it gets genuinely remarkable. The digital twin is not just used during design, it travels with the ship. After the vessel is commissioned and enters service, the digital twin continues to be updated with real-world operational data. Since readings from the ship's own systems flow back into the model, where patterns on machinery are tracked, maintenance records are integrated. The model becomes a living representation of the physical vessel's actual condition. When something goes wrong at sea, engineers ashore can consult the digital twin, understand exactly what failed, and develop repair procedures before the ship even reaches port. The shipyard never stops building the ship, even after the ship leaves. The combat management system is where the ship stops being a collection of hardware and becomes a unified fighting entity. Modern naval combat management systems are processing sensor data from the ship's own radars, passive sonar arrays, electronic warfare receivers, and data link feeds from other platforms, aircraft, submarines, satellites, unmanned vehicles, and synthesizing all of that into a single coherent picture of the tactical environment. In the past, this synthesis was done by human operators working across multiple screens, talking to each other, manually correlating information. The speed of modern threats makes that approach dangerously slow. AI-assisted decision support changes the equation. Software systems continuously track all contacts in the tactical picture, assign threat classifications based on behavior and signature, calculate intercept solutions and engagement timelines, and present the operator with recommended actions, ranked by priority, with the time available to execute each one clearly displayed. The human remains in the decision loop for weapons release. But the machine does the cognitive work of tracking, correlating, and prioritizing at speeds no human team can match. This is cyber-secure, encrypted, and hardened against electronic attack and jamming. Because in modern naval warfare, the data network is as much a target as the physical ship. Below the surface, another revolution is underway. Submarines have always been the most feared instruments of naval power. Silent, patient, capable of appearing anywhere and striking without warning. And submarine technology is now advancing faster than at any point since the Cold War. Air-independent propulsion systems allow modern submarines to operate submerged for weeks without surfacing to recharge batteries, eliminating the acoustic signature of diesel engines that once made detection possible. Advanced anechoic coatings absorb sonar pulses. New hull geometries reduce hydrodynamic noise at operating speeds. But submarines are also gaining something they never had before: unmanned wingmen. Submarine-launched underwater drones, small autonomous underwater vehicles, can be deployed from torpedo tubes and sent on independent missions. They can scout ahead of the submarine. They can lay sensor networks on the seabed. They can serve as decoys, imitating the acoustic signature of the parent vessel and drawing enemy attention elsewhere. And in the future, they may carry weapons of their own. The seabed itself is becoming a contested domain. Undersea cables carry the majority of global communications traffic. Undersea pipelines carry energy. Both are potential targets in a high-intensity naval conflict, and both are now defended and potentially threatened by autonomous underwater systems.
I'm near the submarine construction section now. I can see the forward section of what appears to be a pressure hull being lowered into position in its construction frame. The silence in this part of the facility is almost eerie compared to the surface ship halls. There is a deliberateness here, a precision point that reflects the unforgiving nature of the environment these vessels operate in. A submarine leaves no room for error.
Here is the deepest truth about what is happening inside this shipyard. The shipyard itself is becoming a weapon. Naval power has always depended on the industrial base that produces it. In the Second World War, the United States did not win through superior tactics alone. It won because American shipyards could replace losses faster than any enemy could inflict them. The industrial engine behind the fleet was the decisive advantage. That logic is back, and it is driving investment in shipbuilding capability at a scale not seen in generations. A nation that can build warships faster, more efficiently, and to a higher level of technological sophistication than its rivals does not just have a better navy today. It has the ability to sustain, replace, and expand that navy under the pressures of sustained conflict. That is a strategic advantage that goes far beyond any single vessel. Modern shipyards are investing in automated manufacturing, in digital design and simulation tools, in supply chain integration that can accelerate delivery of critical components, in workforce development programs that train the next generation of naval architects and manufacturing technicians, in facilities capable of simultaneously constructing multiple classes of vessel, surface ships, submarines, unmanned systems, in parallel. The shipyard is not a factory that serves the Navy. The shipyard is part of the Navy's combat power. A rival that can destroy ships faster than they can be replaced wins, regardless of how sophisticated individual vessels are. A nation that can replace ships faster than they can be destroyed and improve each replacement over the last holds the decisive long-term advantage. This is why the engineers working in these facilities, the software developers writing combat management code, the robotics teams programming welding systems, the naval architects designing digital twins, all of them are as central to future naval power as the sailors who will eventually take these ships to sea.
I'm back outside now, looking at the facility from the water side. From here you can see 3 dry docks simultaneously active and different stages of construction in each one. À surface combattant. What appears to be a submarine, and a third hull whose profile I genuinely cannot identify from this distance. Whatever it is not a conventional warship. And that, I think, is exactly the point.
The ocean is changing. It has always been contested. It has always been dangerous. But the nature of that danger is transforming faster than at any point in modern history. The old era of naval warfare, of massive gun duels between capital ships, of fleet engagements decided by weight of broadside, gave way to the carrier aviation era. The carrier era is now giving way to something new. Something defined not by the size of individual platforms, but by the density, connectivity, and autonomy of entire systems of systems. Networks of unmanned vehicles, swarms of drones, AI that processes the battlefield faster than human perception. hypersonic weapons that compress decision timelines to near zero, underwater systems that turn the deep ocean into an active combat zone. The ships being built inside that shipyard today will carry weapons that do not yet exist in final form. They will operate alongside unmanned systems still in prototype testing. They will fight according to doctrines being written right now in naval war colleges and defense laboratories.